Mukesh Kapila is an emeritus professor of global health and humanitarian affairs at the University of Manchester, and he joins me now live from Geneva. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the program. Well, actually, let me ask you this first. What do you make of this UN report?
I think the report confirms what we all know for many past months. However, the report was carried out under constrained circumstances, lack of access, and it is a joint report with the Ethiopian body, which is an agent of one of the parties involved, which is the government of Ethiopia. And what that means is that the report does not have the credibility, and it does not it's incomplete. It didn't go to many of the places where it could have gone to. It was constrained in doing that. And many of the survivors refused to speak to it because they were intimidated by the Ethiopian government presence. After all, it was a joint report. So quite honestly, it is a deeply flawed report that leaves extremely important questions unanswered.
Right. Let's talk a bit about the conflict that's happening on the ground there. As we know, the TPLF is advancing towards the capital. In the case of that happening, of the TPLF entering the capital and capturing Addis Ababa, what will happen?
Well, I think there will be a bloodbath. Not necessarily bloodbath because that's what the Tigrayan forces may do. Let us hope they do not do that. But because we already know that Prime Minister Abiy has ordered his civilians, every home to be armed, and everyone to arm themselves in any way they can to defend themselves, whatever that means. That means that this will be a bloody war of attrition. And Addis is a modern, urbanized location, so we may expect terrible things happening there if it comes to that.
That must be terrifying for the people of Ethiopia. How worried are these people?
Well, I think what's been happening in the last few months in particular is that apart from the war in Tigray and around Tigray in the neighboring regions, there is a war going on all over the country in which the government in Addis is targeting people of Tigray origin who are being disappeared, who are being taken away to unknown camps, their homes are being violated, the workplaces they've been dragged away from. So in a sense, this is now a nationwide conflict that is being carried on a number of different fronts. Unfortunately, this report, because it was over a limited period, and as I've already said, it didn't interview any refugees in Sudan, for example. It didn't go to any of the major massacre sites. And by laying out its allegations that everyone committed these terrible things, and undoubtedly terrible things have happened everywhere, what it does is, doesn't it provide any of the essential detail necessary as to whether this was part of the fog of war or whether it was deliberately targeting. We assume it was deliberately targeting. But what's interesting is what the report doesn't say, as opposed to what the report actually mentions. And the proof that it has presented in it is not something that is quite honestly going to be used by anyone. Mm-hmm. Anyway, journalists have been providing much more detail in terms of evidence of victims and perpetrators and locations than this report does. And to ask the Ethiopian government now to investigate what is going on and to bring charges, it's like, this adds insult to injury.
All right. Professor Mukesh Kapila, thank you so much for joining us here on the NewsHour and sharing that insight.